Hi guys, my name is Alex, and today we're going to talk about our future, specifically that of young people. And the title might seem kind of weird, like you can't do it, but you have to do it. But that's exactly what our future looks like. I realized this while having a discussion with my parents and a lot of relatives last night, is that, and several friends, is like this idea that our generation is taught you can do it. You know, like it's, I think, what older people call like the participation trophy issue. Like everyone gets an award for showing up, therefore we're not learning how difficult life actually is, and we think that things are going to be handed to us. And for young people looking at older people, we think of them as like Karen. So, it's integrated in our society. But what's important is this takeaway that you need money to survive. You need to be able to afford the things that you are going to do in life. And I don't necessarily expect that in our lifetimes the economy is going to change in the way it works enough for that to not be true. So, I think a big thing last night that happened was they were saying like, yeah, none of us work jobs that we enjoy. Like few people do. And that's been true from the people I've seen go into the workforce. And even with the things that I do, like I know a handful of people who really love what they do, and I am one of them. And at the same time, I am stressed to high hell by it. And it's very annoying because you kind of make a gamble, especially when you get out of high school. You make this choice of, do I go to college? Do I go to trade school? Do I just get a job? Do I climb the corporate ladder? Um, and whatever you decide to do, you're stuck with that decision. Like you might think, oh man, I'm going to make myself happy. And it's 50-50 because you have to be able to support yourself. You will be miserable and not be able to stand your existence if you are doing something you hate, but you have to strike the middle ground. And part of that is changing our expectations to realize that no, we're not in an era yet where you can just afford things and do what you want. It's a sad reality, I think. But I feel like every program, every like advertisement that we see is all like, oh, you can do it, you can do that, you can do this, and it only takes like 15 minutes, it only takes $10, it's free 99. And it's like, but that's not actually helping us because yes, you can do these things. I'm a firm believer that we're all capable, but I am not a firm believer that we can do it the gimmicky way. You can't spend 5 minutes a day practicing a language and expect to learn it. You cannot like watch a few videos on engineering and be as competent as an engineer who went to school for engineering. These are things that you have to put in the effort for if you want to see the results. And there's a reason that these degrees are hard, right? And there's a reason that like going to college is harder than not going to college. There's a reason that college is harder than high school is harder than middle school. And you're presented with unique problems at each stage of life. But it is so important that you be prepared for what comes next, because if you're not, you will be floundering. Like there is a very real reality in winding up living on the streets. My mom, who's a professor, has a colleague who's a professor, and she was living out of her car. Sometimes you can spend years, like to be a professor, you sometimes need like 10 or more years of schooling, and you can wind up living out of your car because that investment just doesn't pay off. And I think people should go to school. I think people should go to college. But I also think you should weigh your options. Like I have a very, very close friend who wants to become an artist, and I very much think that she should, but she's as aware as I am that we have to hedge our bets. You know, there's no guarantee that you will make money as an artist, as a creative. And if you do, you're gonna have to find a path to that few people have paved before you. So you're kind of flying solo. Uh, Versus if you go into the corporate world, you might not like your job, but it'll pay the bills. You won't starve. Uh, and unfortunately, I think these are even decisions we have to take into account when we're like, do we want to have kids one day? Like, it's starting to seem like there's two very apparent things that are afflicting our generation. One is that, as the mental health epidemic, we'll call it, because it seems from talking to a lot of my elders, a lot of relatives, a lot of older friends, professors, you name it, that people were not as afflicted by depression and by anxiety as they are today. Like there's something wrong in our expectations that is causing us all to trip up, because yes, there was always some part of the population, like Abraham Lincoln, Leonardo da Vinci, like these are people who had depression. But it was kind of a rare thing comparatively to have this much depression, to feel like you have this many expectations. Like we have the freedom to use our time how we want to, and yet we're all miserable. Like we watch YouTube, but we don't enjoy what we're watching because we're just trying to reclaim some of our lives. We don't spend our free time doing things we really enjoy. And then social media, which is supposed to connect us with people, winds up taking time, and it becomes a chore because we have to stay on top of making sure our friends know what's going on, making sure they know we're alive. Like you used to send letters once a month, and that was good enough. Um, and granted, the world is changing. Like there's no doubt about that, and that we need to adjust to it. So to go back, um, we can't expect that we can do things that we like for money, or even better yet, that we can do things we like and not have to worry about money. The situation has changed. One side is that mental health issue. The other side is finances. It seems like it was much more affordable to get housing back in the day, which we'll say put it at the 50s, although a lot of groups were not eligible for that. Um, but like to throw out some numbers, our original house that I lived in as a kid cost $200,000 when we bought it. Now the house is is over $600,000, and like that's far faster than the rate of inflation. And in the meantime, minimum wages have not gone up nearly as much, right? Like a few years ago, when I started college, I was earning like $8.50 an hour. And in Florida, the minimum wage is expected to go up to $15 by 2026, but right now it's $10. It's been 6 or 7 years since I had that job, and it went up $1.50. But meantime, inflation has been rampant. So, I mean, the point is our financial situation is different than our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents. So a lot of the things that they even expected to have, we can't expect to have. And this might be very glum, but it's important to acknowledge. And then we can find solutions to this. Like we can make the right amount of money. You can find a job that works for you, and you'll spend your life buying back time to do the things that are valuable. You'll spend it trying to buy back time to spend with your friends, with your family, doing things you like, doing art, reading, doing creative projects, even watching YouTube. But you have to be able to support yourself, right? You cannot enjoy life all that much if you are dying of starvation. And that's something that should change within our lifetimes, but it starts with acknowledging the way things are right now. So I'll give you an idea of what I meant with that title, because it's not that we say that we can do it, right? Like you're told by teachers, oh, you can do it, you can try it, and if you put your mind to it, you'll be successful. But there's like a caveat in there. No, you can't just do it. You can do it if you work hard and if you know the right people and have the right resources. Because there's some honesty to the fact that if you don't have a good teacher, you cannot learn a subject. If you don't have the right textbook, you're going to learn it wrong. And, when you start a field, like start learning something, you might read the Wikipedia article on it, and that's great. That is a good foundation. But don't, that's some of the information. If you really want to know a topic, go out and read books, talk to experts in the field, go out and do things in there, like do things with your hands, volunteer, and you'll find the true nature of that subject. So you can do it if you play your cards right. And everything's an investment, right? You either go to school or you earn money at a full-time job. You can't do both at the same time. And if you can, you're sacrificing something else, like time with your family. There is no way around that. You have the same amount of time in a day as everyone else. And you can only use it so wisely before your health starts taking a toll. So consider that. We have to budget our time and our energy and our emotions as much as our own money. And the other side of that is you have to do it. And that is, when we're told we have to do something by a teacher or by an employer, it's like you do it or you lose the job. You do it or you fail the class and you don't get into college. Like there's consequences for this. I think a lot of us have gone through a somewhat rebellious teenage phase in which we're like, well, no, I know how to do it better. But it's because the consequences seem to shift. We don't view our parents as like the absolute authority, but you'll view your boss as that probably. And if you want to accomplish these things that require a lot of dedication, like learning a language, like learning how to draw, I'm mostly drawing from my own life, right? You want to be good at building Legos. you need discipline. And one of the ways to find discipline is to have accountability. And so like I have my friend, that artist friend, she keeps me accountable to like make sure that I'm keeping up to my company like to-do list. And we meet once a week and we discuss the objectives. And it's good to have someone like that. There's other people that I've worked with language and we meet every day and we're like, this is how much we're going to practice. These are the things we need to learn by the end of the day. You gotta prioritize, you have to schedule your time out, and it sucks. Like when I started college, I hated these things. I tried to literally learn every way in the book to avoid having to plan this much. But if you plan right, you play your cards right, your chances of success are much higher. There's a saying, luck favors the prepared. And I think we should all keep that in mind in the current economic situation in our lives and as we prospect for our future. Because the lives we're about to live and the lives we're living now are not the same as people lived a generation or 2 generations ago. We need to find our own way in the world, and we have to support ourselves in order to do that. So when you buy back your time, you will be able to live your life and you'll enjoy it knowing that you've earned it. But we can't have the expectation that things are just going to work out, because life is getting harder, not easier. And that shouldn't be pessimistic, but we have to keep reality in mind when we make our plans for the future. So I wish you all the best of luck. And hopefully you guys can help each other out in the comments. Have a good one.